Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Plan the Day Pro Planning Tips. My name is Christina Goebel. I am co-founder and president of PlanTheDay.com, and I'm really excited to introduce Ian Borgerhoff today. Just super excited to have him on the show, and I'm a little biased because he was my photographer for my wedding, so I'm going to recommend that you all check him out and reach out. But anyways, Ian, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit more about you and your business, and then we'll jump into the tips you have for us.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for taking the time to look at this. My name's Ian Borgerhoff. I do have a photography company. It's actually a Borgerhoff Studios now. We do wedding photojournalism. We also started a video company, so we do cinematography with drones and stabilizers. And then we also do very high-end fashion photo booths, so more like studio output on your wedding day. So I've been doing this for about 10 years. Love it. But yeah, today we're going to talk about a few subjects. There's quite a different styles out there as a bride, as you're trying to figure out. A lot of times brides come to me at a bridal show, and I'll say, what style are you looking for in photography? And they kind of look at me like, what are you talking about? So there are set styles, and then there's variations of these two styles. There's like traditional photography, and then there's wedding photojournalism or journalism photography. And then again, no photography is correct. It's whatever you, as a bride, choose as the style that you like. I'll kind of go over the traditional classic wedding photography. It's usually the larger group of wedding photographers out there. I'm a bit biased. I'm a wedding photojournalist, so don't think that I'm saying anything bad about this. Every style is great, and it has beautiful and great photographers out there. So the classic photography, traditional, it's gonna be set mainly on a shot list. So set poses that everybody, kind of a bride that has a shot list. I want to make sure I get this pose, this look, this bridal shot. There's a lot more emphasis on detail shooting, so shoes, rings, dresses, quite a few shots taken of that, and objects that don't move. There'll be the set poses that you're going to have on your key shoot times, of course, group shots. And then there's another real strong emphasis on the venue. So a bride does spend a lot of time on a venue and finding the perfect place settings and everything, and flowers. So there's definitely a big emphasis placed with that type of photography on those features. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's great. There are some beautiful traditional wedding photographers out there, and they do a great job. The things you'll see that differ a little, there'll be a little bit more flash photography. They don't use natural light as much. It is more of a camera-aware kind of photography. And what I mean is that you'll know where the photographer is. They will be telling you exactly what to do, or you'll see them, taking pictures, and a lot of people will turn around and look to get their picture taken. So that's camera-aware. In photojournalism, it's more camera-unaware photography. Definitely less movement in traditional photography. So if you're looking at a person's portfolio and you see, there'll be definitely more stiff poses, or maybe little slight walking in the photography, but there isn't much constant movement or flowing dresses or like that. The style is definitely more stationary. The reason why people do choose traditional photography, they love the details. I love to look at a beautiful ring shot and shoe shots, and there's nothing wrong with that. Wedding photojournalists do that also, but they just definitely don't spend as much time doing that. A lot of the shots are really designed also to take for photo albums. So you're shooting those traditional shots that you're going to be placing in a photo album. So that's kind of one of the things that you look for in traditional wedding photography. I've talked to a lot of traditional wedding photographers and asked them roughly how many photographs they shoot in a wedding day. Usually it's about 2,500 to maybe 4,000 total shots, and that's with two photographers. So that's kind of a nutshell of what traditional photography work is. That's all you can do, because within traditional photography, they still do have candid moments, and they will do like first moments and try to get some candid moments, but that's not the brunt focus of that kind of photography. Typically, you can do it in 10 hours, that kind of shooting, and that's why you see a lot of packages that are 10 hours of service from, midway from the bride getting ready to about the bouquet toss. So,
are there specific questions that the bride can ask to maybe know the difference between the two, or maybe specific more to traditional bridal photography?
Well, a lot of times you can just look at a person's work. You're going to see the thing I see a lot with traditional photography is if you look at a portfolio of a person's work, a lot of times those poses are very set. So you can kind of pull one bride out and put the other bride in, and it's kind of the same pose. So that's good because the pose has been created. It's a lot of Pinterest kind of shots, but the drawback is that it can be a little repetitive and cookie cutter depending on, if a bride wants a very unique artistic look, more than likely they're not going to get that. But they will get the pose that they want. A lot of times you can just ask. A lot of photographers will say they're wedding photojournalists or they kind of want to do both, but there is a very distinct difference between true journalism, wedding photojournalism, photography, and traditional. You are seeing the blend of both. I don't see it as much when I look at people's work. But there is, again, a traditional photographer doesn't mean they're not going to try to capture moments, but they just don't shoot as much of it.
So I didn't know about wedding photo journalism, like photography, until I actually met you. Like, I really didn't even know there was a difference. So I found that really interesting. So can you talk a little bit more about more about your style, more of the photojournalism type photography? Because I found it really interesting, and I did see a difference when looking at your photos and your work.
Well, thanks. Yeah, there is a difference. Wedding photojournalism is going to be more focused on camera-unaware photography. So, like I said, in traditional, you have about 10 hours of coverage because you can come in there, shoot your detail shots, and then bouquet toss, you're kind of done. You've got all your shot lists taken care of. In wedding photojournalism, you're kind of telling the story of the day. So, Christina, when I started with you, it was 9 in the morning, and we went to midnight? So,
oh, yeah. It was a late night.
So, unfortunately, wedding day is typically 12 to 15 hours for two photographers. But it tells the story of a day. So, from the time you and the bridesmaid started to the very end exit where you guys zipped off when Matt zipped off in the car. Was it you or Matt? I can't even remember. So
no, it was Matt. Yeah. No, I drove. He had a little bit too much to drink.
That's right. There's a reason for that. So, but that's how a wedding photojournalism style is going to be. And again, that day when we're doing the detail or the shots of everything going on, most of the time you didn't even know I was taking your photograph. I
had no idea.
Very camera unaware, unobtrusive. Brides do like that because it's not in your face kind of photography. Never use the flash till we got to the reception. There's definitely better use of natural light. So it is a little bit more challenging for photographers if they're not used to shooting in natural light and knowing how to take full advantage of that, without dealing with shadows or too harsh a light. So that's really going to be the style. Let me see. Let me just go back here to see some of the thing. Definitely candid, definitely more emotion shooting. So the thing I tell people, a traditional photographer, they have their shot list. They know what they want to get. I really don't have a shot list. When I come into a wedding, I'm constantly shooting. My typical weddings are 12,000 photographs. So I am constantly have a camera at my side getting any reaction, any emotion from a distance that I'm seeing develop. So that isn't a shot list. My shot list is honestly of the small amount of time I have between the end of the ceremony going into the reception. And then that becomes a posed, maybe a bit of a traditional, but I do emphasize more kind of spur of the moment, what's going on, let's pull some architecture in. You were fortunate enough to go into Lucas Oil, so I didn't have anything set. We went and got some shots. Oh, this looks beautiful, let's get the shot. And then from kind of just choreographed or directed a few poses that look well. So that's going to be a bit of the style difference between the two. Definitely a harder, I think I've shot both. I've done and shot with other traditional photographers just for fun. It's definitely more fatiguing to do wedding photojournalism just for the amount of time you've got a camera in your hand and how you're holding it. The other thing too is because we don't shoot as much flash, it is definitely less obtrusive. Like when you're getting ready, never did a flash go off. If we do flashes, they're usually off camera. So a flash will go off at a completely different angle so that you don't know where it's coming from. So you're not all of a sudden, oh, flash is off, get my smile face on, let's get my cheese. We did have a couple of you when we did a pose, we wanted a certain shot done. I did put the flash on, everyone was camera aware. So when we were doing the group shot setup, when you're jumping on the bed, that's a fun Pinterest shot. So everyone knew what they had to do. We had the flash on just because it was low light. But really, that's where you see a lot of the difference. There's not going to be as many stock photos. Every one of my weddings look different based on the mood, the bride, the groom, the bridal party, the weather, architecture,
Right.
that. And that's just going to change every day. You know, where's the first moment going to be an emotional one? You know, when I do the first moment with you and your dad, I loved getting your sister's reaction. Those were the
Oh my gosh, that was priceless. That was amazing.
Usually there, the bridal party is the one who cries more than the bride and the dad. But
oh, they're so good.
but those are the little things that definitely make a difference. Again, no style is better than the other. I always tell brides, what's the style you like? And then from there, that's where you choose your photographer. That kind of leads me into kind of a Pinterest thing. Everybody says, oh, is it okay if I lead into Pinterest? So,
yeah, go for it. Yeah.
So as a bride, you should choose your photographer based on the styles that you like. I always recommend that to my brides, they kind of look at my style and my work first, and if they like that, that's great. The thing you always have to watch as a bride, Pinterest is for inspiration, not for recreation. On a wedding day, there is not enough time to get a shot list of 20 poses that might not be anything in the style that we shoot. So just remember that going with your photographer. You can show them a few shots, but on your wedding day, you can't say, I need to have this shot. I honestly shoot over 1 million photographs a year. I think I have maybe at most 20 posts a year. So, you know, there's plenty of weddings that I shoot that I won't even do a Pinterest shot. So that's the best of the best of the best in the perfect lighting situations. And the best analogy that Christina, you and I talked about it earlier, let's imagine you hired Coldplay to play at your reception and he gets 1 hour to play. Because that's kind of the time you get as a photographer. You get 1 hour to do these shots between the ceremony and reception. And then all of a sudden you hand the lead singer of Coldplay a song list that'll take them about 90 minutes to sing. They have to sing exactly like Taylor Swift, Shania Twain, The Grateful Dead, Nickelback. I don't, name, but you're asking them to do cover songs to sound exactly like it. It's very hard to do. And I've talked to all the photographers. It's when we see those lists, we're like, we'll gladly look at them. It's so hard to create on a wedding day. We do the best we can on creating our art style.
Absolutely. And I think too with Pinterest too is a lot of them are styled shoots and they're all over the world, so some of that greenery and some of the things that you're seeing in that background, I mean, it really just depends where you are location-wise, and some of them are styled shoots, aren't they? Most of them?
Most of them are. A lot of compositing, which is literally I can create a backdrop from nothing. It's almost shot on a green.
Oh, interesting.
And then, yes. So most of those are magazine shoots that people don't realize. Again, we can reproduce any of those. It'll take 5 hours. If you really have a list that you want somebody to reproduce, I recommend to my brides do a separate bridal shoot where you have 3 hours set aside, no rush. You get your dress back on, full makeup, full hair, everything. Get a new bouquet and shoot a full wedding day.
That is such a good idea.
Yeah,
why did I not think of that?
That's I've done it actually with a couple brides because we were so rushed on the day. One was so hot she didn't want to go outside. Another one, it was so cold she didn't want to go outside. So that's definitely happened. We're thinking. One little thing, and I did mention to you earlier, you are seeing a trend. And it's happened to me a couple times that brides, it just happened last weekend. My bride announced, had the father it was a St. Mary's, had the father announce to the guests, this is a photo-free wedding. All your photographs will be provided by the professional wedding photographer. And everybody put their cameras away. There wasn't a single shot taken on the wedding.
Really?
And it's become very popular. It's been a big problem with photographers more recently. Last year I had an aunt step in the second row with an iPad right as I was trying to take the kiss shot. And I personally couldn't get it because the aunt was right in the way, but the mezzanine shot was able to get it. But yeah, the aunt and your relatives think that they're doing you a favor. They're really not. We're shooting with tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to get that shot, and the iPad output just isn't going to cut it for your wedding.
That's such a good idea. Such a great idea.
Yeah, the other thing you can do if you don't want to do that, just make sure you rope off the inner aisle on the first 5 rows. That'll make a huge difference. So then the people in the first 5 rows have to come in from the outside. Of course, the immediate bridal party and mom and dad. But any other relatives, they literally are put in from the outside, and that prevents them from leaning into the aisle to get their shot.
Right. Ian, these are such amazing tips. I didn't even know any of these. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I'm like, well, let's just get married again.
I'll photograph it.
Right. Matt would kill me. Well, thank you so much. We'll have to have you back on the show because I know that you have a lot of amazing tips to provide brides, and we could even get into all sorts of really good technical things. I know when we talked earlier, just even about the lenses and all the equipment that you use. So we'll definitely have to have you back on the show. So thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Brides, and congratulations.
Yes, and brides, thank you for tuning in. As always, if you found this helpful, please make sure to share it with your friends and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, so you can get updates on the upcoming shows. We are on again next Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and we're going to have a bride on the show who's going to be talking about some planning tips from a newlywed. So she just got married recently. She'll be talking about some planning tips day of that are going to be helpful for all of you to just kind of keep in mind for day of the wedding. So thanks again, Ian. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in, and see you next time.